With day one of the NFL draft wrapping up with the Lions making their 2 selections, I thought it would be fun to compare some of the similarities and differences between the 2 Detroit teams, the Detroit Lions and the Detroit Pistons. We'll talk about that in today's episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I'm your host, Kuka Hill. You can find me over on Twitter at Kuka Hill. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. I'm recording this right after, later on we'll talk about Mike Budenholzer, the coach of the Milwaukee Bucks, and how their season ended, how that could potentially impact the Detroit Pistons coaching search. And then even later on in the podcast, I want to talk about Thompson and the Overtime Elite League. You guys will see what I have to say then. But first, I'm recording this right after the Lions, the first round's still going on, but the Lions made their 2 selections. So unless I missed it while I'm recording, they end up going back into the first round for a 3rd pick. I'm recording this right after the Lions made their selections in the NFL draft. And I had one of you guys tweet at me. I was like, okay, this is a cool idea. I thought, since it's NFL draft day, I could go ahead and record an episode comparing the differences and the similarities between the Lions and the Pistons, both Detroit sports teams that hope to be on the way up. The Lions seem to be much ahead of that, much farther ahead than the Pistons are, but both of them look to be moving on the way up, and hopefully it looks like they're going to be good around the same time. So hopefully we have downtown busting when these 2 teams are playing really well. We have a lot of fans down there. Downtown hopefully be looking lit. But so one of the similarities, obviously, they both have black GMs, which I think is something that matters maybe not matters a lot, but it's very cool to have, especially in a black city like Detroit. We've heard how important that was with Troy Weaver when he when he kept Dwayne Casey around. Then when they got Jeremy Grant in free agency, we remember all the article that James Edwards III wrote about Jeremy Grant choosing this city because it's a black city. So I think that's a cool little comparison, especially because of the lack of representation in the NFL when it comes to minority coaches and GMs and owners and all that stuff. The fact that the Lions have that is pretty cool. So, and the Pistons and the Lions both have it. So I think that's a cool comparison. A difference, though. Here's one of the differences. I'm hoping this is a difference. The Lions, after this draft, now whether you like these picks, it seems like they 100% reached on both these picks. The Pistons have a lottery coming up. The Pistons have a high draft pick coming up. I pray to God that they do not reach in their picks. Hopefully that does not happen. If that happens, I will be very, very sad. I'll be very sad because right now I'm sad as a Lions fan. I can't believe they picked a running back in the first round. It was just, you can't, I'm not on board with that. But point is, that's the difference, hopefully. Lions maybe reached on some players. Hopefully the Pistons don't reach on some guys in their draft. And the big similarity here, this is one I really want to get to. The big similarity that I hope the Pistons and the Lions end up, or maybe the Pistons could look at the Lions and kind of take take some advice from them, is the head coach. I think the Pistons could very, very much end up with the same type of head coach as Dan Campbell. And this is what I mean. A head coach who is young and up and coming. A head coach who is very emotional, very relatable with his players, very aggressive with his play style, and gets guys to play extremely hard for him, and they love to play for him. I think those are all things that the Pistons should be looking in their next head coach. And here's another similarity that I think will happen with the Pistons. If you're a Lions fan or if you watch the Lions at all the last 2 years, Dan Campbell, there's been some questions at times about some of his clock management, sometimes about the use of his timeouts. There's been some questions about that. Some people agree, disagree about it, but there's been questions about that. However, he's a young head coach, first-time head coach, learning those things as he goes. He's receptive to criticism. And while he has those moments of questioning some of his time management, you know what he does have? Creativity. Extremely creative play caller. Extremely creative head coach. The Lions do all kinds of crazy stuff offensively. You see them consistently. I think they were the team that went for the most fourth downs in the NFL last year. They are extremely aggressive. They believe in their players, and Dan Campbell plays an aggressive, new age type of football. I think that's what the Pistons need to get with their new head coach. An aggressive and creative offensive mind. Someone who plays the new era of type of modern NBA basketball, who's hip with the new modern basketball, who's looking for the next great thing, not staying with the past and letting it catch up to him. That's what the Pistons need in this next head coach. I feel like a young head coach who can relate with his players, who players will love to play for and will run through a brick wall for on that court, and also will design creativity with their offense, play aggressive, be one of the fastest and most aggressive teams in the league with their young talent. I think that's the biggest similarity that they can have between the two teams, is that the Pistons should look at the head coach that the Detroit Lions have and say, you know what? That's how we should do it. That's how we should do it right there. And maybe it's Charles Lee, former NBA player, young assistant head coach. Maybe it's Jaron Collins, former NBA player, young head coach. Whichever one you believe has the type of personality that players will relate to and want to run through a brick wall for, whatever coach has the creativity offensively to make things happen, that's the head coach I think they should get. And if they do go that route, I think you'll start to hear more and more comparisons between the Lions and the Pistons. And I don't think that would be a bad thing. I very much like Dan Campbell. I think that's exactly what the Pistons should be going after. So let me know in the comment section down below. Should the Pistons be going after a type of head coach like Dan Campbell is for the Detroit Lions? Let me know that in the comment section down below or over on Twitter @Kukio. Coming up, the Milwaukee Bucks as the number 1 seed just lost in the first round. There's rumors that Mike Budenholzer may be on the hot seat, may be on his way out. Will that affect the Pistons' head coaching search? We'll talk about that when we come back. But first, I've got to tell you guys about one of our sponsors. This one, I've got to tell you guys a little bit about Nissan. Nissan's Most Electric Player of the Week is brought to you by the all-new, all-electric 2023 Nissan Ariya. And obviously, the Detroit Pistons are not playing currently, so I'm going to be picking my Player of the Weeks from teams that are currently in the playoffs and players I think are playing the best and providing me the most excitement, the most fun watching in the playoffs. And this week, I'm picking Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler is my Nissan's Most Electric Player of the Week. This man, Jimmy Butler, just knocked off the number 1 seeded Milwaukee Bucks by playing some of the most ferocious type of basketball, the absolute just powerful type of basketball. On the final play to send it into overtime, just straight up just gets physical with not Max Strus, but gets straight up physical with Pat Connaughton, pushes him off and hits the game tying shot to send to overtime. Damn near averaging 40 points in the first round. Went toe-to-toe with the Greek Freak. Jimmy Butler absolutely balled out. He was absolutely electric in this first round. So he's my Nissan's Most Electric Player of the Week, brought to you by the all-new, all-electric 2023 Nissan Ariya. The 2023 Nissan Ariya packs pin you to your seat power and premium intelligence all in one EV. The all-new, all-electric 2023 Nissan Ariya, the EV for people who love to drive. Shop now at nissanusa.com. And Jimmy Butler, again, is my Nissan's Most Electric Player of the Week, brought to you by the all-new, all-electric 2023 Nissan Ariya. And then I gotta tell you guys about another one of our sponsors, BetterHelp. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Give online therapy a try at betterhelp.com/LockedOnNBA and get on your way to being your best self. Getting to know yourself can be a lifelong process, especially because we're always growing and changing. Therapy is all about deepening your self-awareness and understanding, because sometimes we don't know what we want or why we react the way that we do until we talk through things. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who can take you on that journey of self-discovery from wherever you are at this point and wherever you're trying to get to. If you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charges. Discover your potential with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp. HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Use code LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month at BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons, hit that subscribe button, or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. I appreciate all of you guys who are still listening every single day. Locked On Pistons, even during the offseason, even during the tiring days of the offseason where there's not really much to talk about. We don't know who the next head coach is going to be. We haven't heard much about it. The lottery's not here yet. We're still waiting to see where the Pistons end up. I appreciate all you guys who continue to come by and listen, and things are definitely going to start heating up soon with the draft lottery, especially when the Pistons make their head coach. And speaking of the Pistons head coach that they'll go with, Mike Budenholzer and the Milwaukee Bucks just lost to the Miami Heat in the first round. 1-8 seeds. First seed lost to the 8th seed in 5 games. Very disappointing first round matchup for the Milwaukee Bucks. Very disappointing end to their season. Now, Giannis did miss 3 games, and that definitely played a big part in this series. But nonetheless, that was a team that had the best record and championship aspirations, and they just fell short. And now there's rumors that Mike Budenholzer may be on the hot seat, and maybe Mike Budenholzer may be getting fired. Could that impact the Pistons' coaching search at all? I think it 100% does. First of all, let me say this. Maybe, just maybe, I want to wait to see if we get any reports, any rumors about this or something first, but maybe Troy Weaver sees the future. Because there's a lot of coaches, it seems like, in these playoffs now that maybe you didn't expect would be available that could potentially be available. Like Ty Lue. He could potentially be available now. JB Bickerstaff. He could potentially be available now. Looks like Mike Budenholzer might be available now. And who knows who else may become available from these playoffs. So maybe the Pistons are waiting to see some of these guys and will go after some of these guys that potentially leave their teams. Now, do I think the Pistons will be going after Mike Budenholzer? I don't think that they'll be going after Mike Budenholzer. At this point of the coaching search, it seems like that they're, it seems like they're really, really dedicated and really, zeroed in on having a black head coach. It just seems like that's what they're targeting. That's what they want. So I whether you agree or disagree with it, I think that's what they're really going for right now. So I don't know if they'd be interested in Mike Budenholzer. We've gotten kind of like some rumors about that before the season even ended, when the Pistons got rid of or maybe not got rid of Dwayne Casey, but moved him up into the front office. The 3 finalists, all are black coaches, assistant head coaches, or whatever, head of coaching and player development in OTE, which we'll talk about that a little bit later. So I don't think they'll be interested in Mike Budenholzer, but I think it can still have an impact on the Pistons coaching search. Because what if the Milwaukee Bucks move on from Mike Budenholzer and then just elevate Charles Lee, who's their assistant coach, who also is getting an interview with the Toronto Raptors? What if he ends up going back to Milwaukee? Or not going back to Milwaukee, but getting a promotion in Milwaukee. Well, now the Pistons are out another candidate. Now they're just down to 2 candidates, and whoever else they happen to find. Their 3 front runners were Charles Lee, Jaren Collins, and Kevin Ollie. Maybe Charles Lee just gets a promotion where he's at, and he goes up to the head coach in Milwaukee. And I guarantee you, if that was something that was possible for him, I refuse to believe he'd pick the Pistons situation over that. He's going to be having the best player in the world on his team, coaching championship aspirations. I don't believe that he'd be interested in coming to the Pistons if that was the case. Now, we don't know if that's actually something that's going to happen, but I think it's something to watch, and it could definitely impact the Pistons' coaching search if Mike Budenholzer does get fired, or if he just walks away, or if they split ways, whatever. It could impact them, and not just Mike Budenholzer's situation, seeing the rumors about all these other head coaches that could potentially be getting moved on from. Like, what other head coaches could be doing it? Who knows? And maybe that's part of the Pistons' plan. Maybe they're just waiting to see how these first-round matchups go and see if any coaches get eliminated or get fired because of it. and then they get interviewed with them. So who knows? I'm really interested to see how that happens. We haven't heard much about the Pistons head coaching search over the last few days. I think our last update was the fact that they had 3 frontrunners. I think that was like last week or the beginning of this week. So it's been a little quiet with the Pistons coaching search. The biggest news out of that is that, like I said earlier, Charles Lee is interviewing with the Raptors too. So that's another guy the Pistons are interested that could be going to another job if the Pistons, don't make a decision quickly. I did find it interesting that the Toronto Raptors are not interviewing Kevin Ollie. I found it pretty interesting. I thought he was a hot commodity on the market, but they're not interested apparently. Who knows? Maybe they don't know that he's, the head of coaching and player development over at the OTEs. And speaking of that, I want to move on to the next segment where I want to just give my thoughts on Amen Thompson and the Overtime Elite League in general real quick. You guys will see what my thoughts are on that in just a minute. But first, I've got to tell you guys about one of our sponsors, eBay Motors. For a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits just right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know that the part will fit, or you'll get your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply at ebaymotors.com. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. Hit that subscribe button at the YouTube channel if you have not already, or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. All right, so I want to let you guys know this now. This is not my breakdown of Amen Thompson. This is not our draft profile dive-in episode, whatever, of Amen Thompson. It's not. I'm not done with that yet. I told you guys in the last episode I am getting into it. I've watched 3 games so far of Amen Thompson with the OTE. I want to watch him in a different setting, playing in a different setting, get ready for this. This is about to be a little bit of a rant real quick to end the podcast. The Overtime Elite League is awful. It's horrific. I've watched 3 games, and I have my first two takeaways. Both have to do with the Pistons. First 2 takeaways of watching these few games with OTE that I've watched. 1, you shouldn't want anyone that's associated with this when it comes to coaching. When it comes to, like, some of the players, the Thompson twins, okay. But I don't know how you can watch this league and take it seriously at all. Like, I can't take this seriously even a little bit. I can't imagine getting a head coach from this league. Like, this league is, there's no way that people watch this league, 1, for fun on purpose. Like, they watch it for fun, or 2, watch and take it seriously at all. It's terrible. I feel like I've been suffering watching through these games. So that's my first takeaway. I don't care if Ali was the head of coaching and development, a head coach over there, a GM, a trainer, a player scout. I can't take it. I just can't take anything seriously with the OT. I just can't. They had Agent Zero as a commentator. Like, come on, bro. Those of you guys who are around my age, 24, 25, who grew up playing 2K, you guys know who Agent Zero is. He's a commentator for the OTEs. Like, come on, bro. Like, I couldn't believe it. I can't take it serious. And then my second takeaway was, does Amen Thompson even take it serious? I'm watching these games, and I'm jotting down notes. I'm trying to break down Amen Thompson, the player. I'm trying to get my takeaways. And one of my first takeaways watching Amen in the OTEs was, I literally have it written down, I'm not sure Amen Thompson even takes this league seriously. It's hard to I'm going to have stuff. Don't worry. I'm going to have stuff to talk about with Amen Thompson. I'm going to try to watch him in a different setting and try to get more, obviously I'm going to watch a little bit more of his tape. But through the games I've watched, one of my big things is, how can I take this seriously when it looks like at times even Amen doesn't take it seriously? Like, if you watch him over there, there's multiple times where I see him just, it feels like he's just playing pickup ball. He's not really caring. Like, he's just out there trying stuff. Like, he's just like, whatever, let's do this. Like, it doesn't feel like there's much structure at all to what they're doing. It doesn't feel like there's much, like, what's the word I'm looking for here? There's not a point of what he's doing. It's just like, and I'm not saying this is the whole time he's out there. I'm not trying to say I know some people may take it away as me trying to say he's, some negative aspect of it. I'm not trying to really be too negative about Amin. It's just that it's hard to watch him and his brother. It's hard to watch the OTEs and really have like big takeaways, at least from what I've watched so far. I'm sure I'll end up getting more takeaways. I end up feeling more confident about bigger takeaways the more I watch. But man, it's just hard. It's hard to like get legit takeaways from what you're watching over there. Guys aren't really playing defense. Guys aren't really trying on defense. It's like the rotations aren't very good. It doesn't seem like there's many big guys over there. Guys, I see guys pressing, getting beat in the backcourt, and then they just run down 5-on-2. It's like a pickup game when everyone's too tired, and it's just like layups. Like, that stuff happens. It's just like, dude, what's going on? Like, what's happening? There's times where Amin will just pass the ball and just, sit back and watch, catch the ball, take a step back. Like, nothing that happens in this league I can take seriously, dude. It's just like, it's so hard for me to watch this and be like, dude, they are taking this at the utmost seriousness. And I now understand why people are saying, hey, OTE, it's hard to take away anything with these guys, and why it may scare some scouts. Now, I don't think that simply playing in the OTE should scare away everyone completely. I don't think that should be the case. But I do understand why some people feel that way, because, my God, if you haven't watched the OTE game, you can watch them on YouTube. Go watch some of these games. It's tough. It's tough. So, I will say this. I know I was a little bit negative right there. And again, I wasn't trying to really go at Amin. I'm more so going after OTE and how their structure is and how, like, it's supposed to be. My understanding of OTE is supposed to be helping younger guys, give them a different route than just college to, make money and raise their draft stock or, try to get to the NBA. Like, that's what my understanding is of that. Outside of the money part, I don't see how this is helping prospects at all. Because you're not putting legit product on the floor, and you're not really showing off things that need to be shown. Like, I don't get it. I don't get what this league's purpose is. But, again, it's more about the league than Amin Thompson himself. A positive that I got from Amin, and again, we're going to dive into this in a future episode. Probably next week, towards the end of next week, I'll probably be finished with my studying of him, researching of him. Quick positive that I got instantly. Dude, obviously, is a freak athlete. In transition, he should be a nightmare. He should be just crazy, I feel like. In transition and on cuts, he should just be a freak of nature. Just scary to deal with. Especially if you were to pair that with, like, Jay and Ivy in transition. Like, dude, that should be terrifying for opposing defenses. Like, you get him on the move, flowing to the basket, and just let him use it as lesson and just pound it on somebody. Like, it could be scary. That was one of my first positive takeaways I watched from him, is that transition, yeah, this dude could be pretty crazy. But that's just a little treat, a little Easter egg for what's going to be coming up next week with Amin Thompson. Stay tuned for that. But that's all I've got for you guys today. Let me know what your guys' thoughts on the OTE and Amin Thompson, if you watched some of it, in the comment section down below or over on Twitter at Kuka Hill. Also, if any of you guys are Lions fans, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on how the Lions' first round went. Let me know all that in the comment section down below or over on Twitter at Kuka Hill. That's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. Hit that subscribe button to the YouTube channel. Leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Stay safe. Peace out.